I wish they would embrace listening to themselves. And by that, I mean two things. Not only listening to themselves and trusting that their own intuition, their own thoughts could be more than enough, but also taking the opportunity not to buy into some of the negative things that they think about themselves. In other words, maybe there's a story that worked for you up until now, or up until maybe not now. Maybe it hasn't been working for you for a while, but taking the opportunity to stop and see what that, listen to yourself. What is that story? And sometimes you don't hear that story in your own head. Maybe you have to take the opportunity to journal to really hear what you're saying, or just sit and listen to what you're saying to your best friends. That's really telling in terms of what you think your story is about your relationships, your jobs, all the things going on in your life. So is that story still serving you? So really just listening to yourself.
In 1 month, we are going to be kicking off the 9th annual Extraordinary Women Ignite Conference happening in beautiful Golden, Colorado from November 2nd through 4th. Join us and get ready for 3 incredible days packed with inspiration, transformation, and turbocharged business growth. Seriously, this is an event you don't want to miss if you're looking to ignite your wild success, to crank up the volume on your voice, and to make a real impact out in the world. Let's come together in a room full of extraordinary women, soak up that positive energy, and create ripples of change that will rock our world. All the details are available at CamiGellNerd.com/ignite. And if you use the special code EWR, as my listeners, you're going to get $200 off your ticket. So come join us. It's going to be an amazing 3 days. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Alison Hall. Alison is the founder of Change Agent Coaching for Women and founder of the Boldest Me, a personal development empowerment brand for women. After a successful corporate career spanning 25 years, she pivoted to entrepreneurship, and she'll, of course, tell us a bit about that story. Her mission is to ignite confidence in women, and she often says it's never too late to chase your dreams. In this episode, Alison shares real-world advice on how you can move away from making decisions on shoulds and instead move towards embracing a purpose-driven life where passion, skill, and marketability intersect. She shares insights on how you can move beyond the limiting beliefs and fears in your life to elevate your life and business. You're going to love Alison. Let's meet Alison Hall. Well, welcome to Extraordinary Women Radio, Alison. It is great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more about your business and all of the, all that you've built. You've built an incredible programming that helps women, and I am just really looking forward to learning more about your journey. But let's start with that story. Let's start with your reinvention story, because you were 25 years in the corporate world. What was that? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, like so many people, that story isn't particularly unique. You get out of college, get out of grad school, you get that corporate job, you're excited, you keep moving up, and things are great. You travel a lot, you see a lot of places, but and 25 years, it sounded so long to me. I was like, I can't believe I've been doing this for
I was
25
there.
years. Yeah,
I
you
was
look up and
there.
you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But 25 wasn't the number that hit me. I just felt like I wasn't even burnt out, just a little bit rusted,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah.
little bit tired of what I was doing. I didn't have passion for it. I didn't care. I was good at it,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
well, but I just wanted to do something else. And so on the side, I was very interested in fitness. And so I had already, just as a hobby, earned a personal fitness training, certification. So I thought, this might be the first thing that I do. Why not? So I started a, a personal fitness business for women
Mhm.
who were like myself, who just didn't have the time to
Worked
get
really
to the
hard.
gym. Yeah, they
Yeah.
work really hard. And I obviously already had a network of, potential clients. So it worked out so well that I kind of, burned myself out of a job. I got to the point where all I was doing was managing other trainers. And so I had the opportunity to sell that business to one of my trainers who was passionate about it. And I moved on to something else. But, you know, I think what it taught me in that initial thing was that it's okay to step through the door, even if you're a little bit scared. I mean,
Mhm.
sure, I was nervous. It's not like I had millions of dollars,
Right, right.
to sit upon, but I was just so proud of myself that nothing, the sky hadn't fallen, nothing horrible happened. And so it just gave me the time to think about what did I really want to do next.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you find way into the work that you're doing today?
Well, even though in the corporate, I am a CPA by designation. That's not exactly what I was doing in the corporate world. I mean, I was always in finance and audit, things like that, strategy. But I just sort of, I always had an interest in working more individually with people. And I became a certified financial advisor. But then I discovered that some of the people that I was working with were, it was typically women, just because that was kind of the group of people that I was familiar with. But so many people facing divorce that were affected by divorce either had been divorced and now they needed some financial assistance because of divorce, or they were about to go through divorce. And I discovered another designation, the certified divorce financial analyst. And I was like, this is perfect. I want a little more information about how to specifically help clients get through and around and beyond the divorce process.
Yeah.
So that's how I started another of my businesses, Whitehall Divorce Solutions, where I help women predominantly get their finances in order, create new lives for themselves post divorce.
Okay. Okay. So there's two aspects to your business, and you've got the divorce coaching,
Hmm.
and then you've got the other side of your business.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it started with helping people with the process of divorce. And I
Uh-huh.
found that maybe 80% of what I was doing was kind of coaching people toward a new life. And so I thought, well, let me get a little training in this and not just fly
Yeah.
by the seat of my pants. And so, got a little requisite coaching training. But it came kind of naturally because what I was helping people do was transition from one thing to another. And as it turned out, women particularly, were often transitioning not just from a relationship situation, but also it might facilitate the need to get a different career or a better paying, opportunity as a result of the family change. So that resulted in change agent coaching, which is a one-on-one coaching business that I started to help women transition from major life decisions. Um, and so that came as a result of the other business, and they kind of go hand in hand. It depends on what people need or want. Not a requirement to have either one, or sometimes you don't need any of it, or just a little advice. But that's how
Yeah.
it got into this specialty area.
Yeah. One of the things that, pops up for me here is just the and I see this so often. I work with so many women who left the corporate world, started their own businesses, and there's this evolution, and our businesses really go through many different cycles. We go through different cycles of of you know the what our businesses are, and I think a lot of that really ties to who we are. It's like the journeys that we're on, the spiral journey that we're on as people. We're evolving and growing with our businesses. Did you find that?
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things that, well, I'm certainly evolving with my businesses, and it takes me wherever it takes me, and I'm fine with that. Obviously, we all come up with lots of, great ideas of things that don't have anything to do with our skill sets or things like, and so you have to kind of weed things out. Otherwise, you're just
Right.
chasing. And I did kind of chase things initially because I was just so excited not to be tamped down by anything. It's like, let me try this. But now I'm much more linear. I try to
Yeah.
stick to things that I have a skill set in, et cetera, et cetera. But it's ever evolving. Like I said, the divorce, area or niche came about as a result of something else I was doing and just the people I
Yeah.
was around. And even
Yeah.
friends friends were always getting divorced and asking for just personal favors in terms of, can you help me with this and can you help me with that? So yeah, you just never know where the inspiration for what you're going to do comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And it's so beautiful. So when you think about that journey from corporate to entrepreneur, what do you attribute some of your successes? I mean, what have you brought with you from your corporate days, and what have you left behind?
I think that I don't have any data to support this, but I definitely believe that my corporate career gave me a lot of structure. How it is in corporate
Mhm.
America. I mean, there's a way to do everything, and for better or worse.
Right.
There are policies,
Right.
procedures, and I am
Right.
a policy and procedure kind of person. Just in terms of, let's go through all of the steps, even when in helping clients, with goal setting. Let's set the goals, let's break them down and chop them up into manageable bite-sized things. For
Yeah.
me, organization and structure and moving through the steps is just logical. So
Yeah.
I've
And
gained a lot of logical. Yeah.
it's interesting because I've been playing with the word structure recently, just in some
No.
of the writings I've been doing, and I think structure actually enables us to simplify our businesses. It enables us to look at ways that we're streamlining our time and that choosing our time, and then we can bring our kind of that soulful wisdom that we have as entrepreneurs. I think that's a beautiful way that we can leverage that inner wisdom that we have as women alongside the structure, alongside the strategy. And it's really powerful to weave those two together. Did you play, kind of listening to your inner wisdom in a way that you never did in the corporate world?
Oh, yes. I mean, I think it took me a while to even realize it was there, honestly.
Exactly,
Yeah,
right.
because you're so accustomed to, it doesn't matter how high up you get in the hierarchy in the
Hmm.
corporate world,
You're not
there's
talking
always
about that.
somebody. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's somebody who, they're not talking about that at all, and there's always somebody making the end result decision. So it doesn't behoove you to kind of go into yourself and look inward,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so once I realized that it was there, it was fascinating, because I started to make decisions based on what I really wanted, which I think is soulful in a way.
Yeah.
It's something that
Yeah.
women, we don't often in our earlier lives have that opportunity to do, or give ourselves the opportunity to do, because we have so many other priorities and people who are in charge of decision
Yeah.
making and things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, everything I've done since I've been free has had
Free.
my own soulful spin on it, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you tap into that? I mean, how did you tap into that wisdom?
Yeah, like I said, it didn't come, I don't think it necessarily came naturally. It was
Yeah.
more having come to Jesus's with myself about, telling myself not to necessarily listen to everything everyone else says. No, you're not
Hmm.
not to listen to every little piece of advice I hear from family, friends, well-meaning anyone,
Yeah.
and also
Yeah.
not to listen to every negative thing that I hear in my own head, or every thought in my own head isn't necessarily sage wisdom,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just a thought that you can let go of. I honestly had to kind of tap into just hearing myself. Maybe I'm being
Yeah.
repetitive in saying that, but I don't think I had spent a lot of time
No,
listening
I
to
get
what I
it.
was actually saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. And so when you look at how that weaves into your work with your clients today, how does that work?
I think it's been, I don't think you can be in a coaching kind of field without having deep empathy and also having some level of experience in what your clients have gone through or are going through.
Right.
Interestingly, I've never been divorced. I'm not a
Hmm.
product of divorce, but I can be empathetic about it. Everyone's been in relationships that don't work out, and ultimately that's
Yeah.
what divorce is, right? So tapping
Yeah.
into, how would you talk to somebody that you care about and but objectively help them? And I think that's where
Yeah.
coaches come in, is the objectivity end of it.
Yeah.
I can be empathetic, but I can also be not your best friend in terms of, telling you what you want to hear. Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, it's just, I think I've really tapped into being my own self and bringing that to people, and not trying to guide them to any big decision, just giving them the space to think, just like I gave
Yeah.
myself the space to think.
Yeah. 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 Well, let's talk about your work that you're doing. Um, what's the one thing you wish that women would embrace?
That's great. That's kind of a great segue. I wish they would embrace listening to themselves.
Yeah.
And by that I mean two things. Not only listening to themselves and trusting that their own intuition, their own thoughts could be more than enough, but also taking the opportunity not to buy into some of the negative things that they think about themselves. In other words, maybe there's a story that worked for you up until now, or up
Hmm.
until maybe not now. Maybe it hasn't been working for you for a while, but
Right.
taking the opportunity to stop and see what that, listen to yourself. What is that story? And sometimes you don't hear that story in your own head. Maybe you have to take the opportunity to journal to really hear what you're saying. or just sit and listen to what you're saying to your best friends. That's really
Yeah.
telling in terms of what you think your
Mm,
story is about your relationships, your jobs, all the things going on in your life. So is that story still serving you?
yeah.
So
The
really just
the
listening to
stories that we tell
yourself.
ourselves, I love stories that uplift us. I mean, those are so
Yeah.
beautiful, right? When we can find those
Yeah.
stories that uplift us, it's like really think about the times in your life where you felt most on fire, most alive, all those sorts of things. And then we can look at the other side of story where it's like the stories that actually pull us down. And that's what you're
Right.
talking about here.
Exactly.
Yeah. And when we can really balance and learn to shift those stories, and balance where we're spending our time in the stories, because if we're spending our time in the negative spin stories all day long, we just find ourselves in a deeper and deeper space.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. So what skills and traits do you admire in women? I mean, I know you work with women. What is it that helps them be really successful? What do you see that pulls people into to success?
For In my opinion, one of the biggest things is just resilience. And I think that's something that a lot of women don't give
Mm,
themselves enough credit for. Because we all know what the word resilience means, but to
right.
even get to being resilient means that you've gained a level of confidence by trying things, falling down, getting up, keeping it moving, and gaining confidence from that. Resilience comes from the ups and downs and going through all kinds of different things and still getting up and keeping it moving. And
Yeah.
I think that so many women that I come across in my personal life and, in my work don't appreciate or respect the level of resilience that they've gained through all of their experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. And it's interesting. I've been doing a survey of a lot of former corporate women who have left behind the corporate world and started their own business. And resiliency is one of the things that shows up really highly. It's like they declare that it's one of the success factors. Because we feel that we know what it feels like to be resilient. We know what, it feels like the slow down, to speed up, to slow down, to go backwards, to go forward, all of those things, and we still show up. And so I think that resiliency is a great gift that we have as women. What habits and behaviors and tendencies are keeping women from really stepping into their success?
Yeah, that to me, that kind of goes back to the what you hear or in your head. For instance, let's say you're going through a transition and you say
Hmm.
to yourself, "Oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to make the amount of money that I need." Right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I mean, the flip side of that is I'm smart, I've done hard things, I can do more hard things. That's kind of the flip side. Uh, but this one limiting thing, and we all talk about limiting beliefs, but when you make it small like that, well, that's a fear. Oh
Uh-huh.
no, I'm never going to. So what happens when we lead with fear? You lead with fear, you make fear-based decisions, and they tend to be small, short-sighted, and not,
Mm,
going to serve you in the
yeah.
grander scheme of things. And I think that's what I
Yeah.
find most. By the time women decide to come to a coach or to get some sort of help, very often they're aware of that. They maybe are not able to articulate it, but they're aware
Right.
that there's something that needs to switch
Shift.
and
The
yeah, to
breakthrough,
shift
right?
to
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how do you help women with fear? Because I think that's a big thing. I mean, I work with entrepreneurs every day. It's like, how do you help women break through fear?
Yeah. I think it's just like working with children sometimes, excuse me. Sometimes articulating what it is, not sometimes, all the time, articulating what it is number one. And, I mentioned journaling. I know some people don't find it to be particularly useful, and I'm not a journaling guru. I just find that when you write things down, it makes it more real. And it
Yeah.
also, we think so much faster than we write. When you write something down, it gives you the opportunity to really contemplate it.
Yeah.
So when you write
Yeah.
down some
It's
of the
really
things,
becoming friends with our fear, right?
what do you think's holding you back? Or what are
Yeah.
you concerned about? Taking the word fear out of it maybe sometimes is helpful
Oh,
because,
that's a good one. Hmm.
very often if fear makes you think, oh, well, I'm not afraid of that much. It's just a different connotation. But what's holding you back? If it weren't for this, what do you think you would be doing? Those sorts of questions, and having people answer those in writing for themselves. And then you kind of get an idea of where you are in your headspace. Are you just sort of surviving, on a
Mhm.
continuum? Are you
Mhm.
just surviving? Maybe you're thriving and you
Yeah.
just need a push out the door or like a little baby bird out of the nest?
Yeah.
Where are you on that continuum? And that's where we can sort of extricate the fears. It doesn't matter if we call them fears or, you know, setbacks or things to overcome. What we call them is irrelevant. These are the
Yeah.
things that are holding you back, right? So
It's the energy of
that's
it.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, cool, cool. Well, and how should we so when we've got fear and we've got and you see that breakthrough, what happens when they start to break through the fear?
Well, I think that when you start to break through the fear or just identify it and then start to categorize it, not doing psychotherapy or anything, but why do you think that fear exists? And what's the worst case scenario if it's true? We don't know that what you're afraid of is even true, right?
Yeah.
What's the, you know, on a scale, is there a 0% chance that this is actually something for you to be, afraid of? Or is
Mhm.
there 100% and you're absolutely dead on and maybe we should
Yeah.
step around that because that's
Yeah.
problematic.
Yeah, yeah.
But, sort of categorizing things and then looking at it in terms of, okay, well, like again, I'm a very logical person. Okay, well, what can we do about that to either
Yeah.
get around it, under it, over it, or just through it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
talk a lot about how to break down those sorts of barriers.
Yeah, I love it. I often work with my clients on fear, and it's really looking into the eyes of fear. And I can go back to a story, way back when I was starting my business, and I didn't even want to talk about fear. I wanted to put it kind of, and it's like, oh, that's a negative energy. I don't want to talk about it. And I had a moment with a coach where it really became clear that I did have some fear, and I acknowledged it. And I have a deck of inspiration cards that I was writing at the time, and I wrote, I was looking into the eyes of fear as the title of that inspiration card.
Yeah.
And to me, it's about really embracing and becoming friends with our fear.
Mhm.
Because when we can become friends with it, it kind of diminishes the energy of it, and it enables us to move with it, and say, okay, thanks for all of that tension, but I'm okay. I realize you're trying to take care of me, but I'm going to really just become friends with you on that. And it's a interesting way to play with fear, because I think, as as entrepreneurs, we're always stepping into someplace new that has some tension around it, some fear associated with these bigger stretches. And when we can really become comfortable with the energy of fear and comfortable with moving into it, stepping into it anyway, there's I think we can really break through so many different ways.
And it builds that resilience muscle too,
Yeah, there
right?
you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I love that. Love that. So, Allison, what's next for you in your business?
Right. So I mentioned just a little bit, therapy, but that's not what I do.
Uh-huh.
But I have a great partner who is a psychologist, and we have been, just sort of casually referring clients back and forth. If someone's beyond what I can do to help them, and maybe therapy would be better, I refer
Uh-huh.
clients to her,
Yeah.
vice
It's
versa.
always good to have both. Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And so in talking about it, we realized, wow, this would be great if we combined our efforts into, one endeavor. So it's the Boldest Me. And we do group coaching. It's not so much therapy, but you get the benefits of a therapist and
Nice.
working with women in transition generally. But,
Hmm.
we have some very specific things we work on. And again, working with a lot of women who've been affected by or are being affected by divorce because, it's just one of the biggest transitions that women can go through. And
Yeah.
yeah, and we do retreats and, just it's turned into being something really fun. I had wanted to do group coaching myself, but it's so much better with a partner. You can just sort of
Yeah.
build off of one another's
Yeah.
expertise.
Excellent. I love collaboration and partnership. That's a good
Yeah,
way to work in businesses together. So I love that.
absolutely.
Okay, where can people learn more about you and your work?
Yeah, changeagentcoaching.com. Or you can reach me if you have questions or you want to talk to me. It's Alison, Alison, at changeagentcoaching.com. or check us out at the Boldest Me.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah.
And then the final question I always close with are what are three pearls of wisdom you want to leave with us today?
Let's see. Um, Shift your story. We kind of talked
Mm-hmm.
about that. If your
Mm-hmm.
story's not working for you, let's
Mm-hmm.
shift it to something else. Um, let's see. Oh, in terms of shifting your story, not just shifting your story for yourself, but shift the conversation. And I don't know if we really talked about that. Shift how you're talking out in the world about your
Oh,
life.
totally.
I think that's,
Totally.
because that's totally, it's just kind of leading with action. Um,
Yeah.
and honestly, just taking action. And this is probably relevant for everybody. If you're sitting still, but trying to decide what to do about something, just take
Mm-hmm.
one small step, because that little small step can lead to many more actions. It's just like
Yeah.
when you set goals. If you make one great big goal, you're less likely to achieve it. But when you make, tiny bite-sized things,
Yeah.
you're more likely to get there.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Allison, this has been so much fun. It's been great to get to know you and to hear your story and to hear your wisdom. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been fun. Thank you.
You bet.